Marc Raimondi with ESPN, back with you today with a special guest, Daniel Cormier. And you might be asking, well, DC's already got his own show on ESPN. Why does he have to talk to Marc Raimondi today? And the reason is there's something special going on this weekend, Saturday, Philadelphia, WWE Extreme Rules. There is a fight pit match. It's Seth Rollins, it's Matt Riddle, and the special guest referee is none other than UFC Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier. How about this? You're finally in WWE, DC.
It's crazy, right? Because for years we've spoken about this, right? You know how many times I've been at post-fight pressers going, I've talked to Triple H, I've talked to these guys. We never really could find a role that worked, but this made sense because not only is this program between the two very intense, it's rooted in something more. And if you know, or if you keep up to the product, you keep up with the WWE, you understand that these two guys don't get along. And it's not only in terms of you're my enemy in the match. No, they don't get along outside of the ring. So it just made sense. And a couple weeks ago, they did a split screen interview and they kind of paid homage to John Jones and I. And I thought to myself, wow, man, that's some good. That's some good.
So tell me how this all came together, Daniel. So I know that you've been in contact with Triple H, with WWE for a long time, for years. So when did they call you? What did they say? Did you accept right away?
Yeah.
How did it all work out?
So it wasn't really from the people in charge. It was Seth Rollins. He texted me. He goes, "Hey, Riddle and I are fighting in the fight pit, and we may be in the market for a special guest referee. Would you have any interest in it?" So I said, yeah. I said, I'd be interested in doing it. I think that it's fun. I think that what you guys have done has been a pleasure to watch, and I think it's going to be intense. I think that I can add to the story because the reality is all you're trying to do is add to the story, right? These guys are the professionals. They're going to make magic as they have done on so many occasions. So hopefully I can add like a little bit to what they're doing in there. And I said I'd be interested, put him in contact with my agent, and it just so happens that his wife and I share the same agent. So it worked.
Is that Brad Slater?
Yeah, Slater.
It is Brad Slater. Okay, shout out to Brad Slater. So I know this is something that you've always wanted to do. Why is now the right time, would you say?
I think that, I've always liked it. I've always watched it. And I've always kind of had an eye on how I could play into it, Mark. But I think when you look at what they're doing specifically, and there's a lot of ties to this, right? Think about this, Mark. Matt Riddle's a former UFC fighter. I've got that connection to Rollins from not only me geeking out when he won the championship in Santa Clara, but just texting each other, talking to each other, like support, not only behind closed doors, but in the public eye. When I would fight, he would always tweet something, I would do the same. So it was just like, it just made sense. And then it just felt so real. It feels real. And then hearing Seth talk about it, it made me understand that it is real. And I wanted to be a part of it. So that just made sense.
I got to be honest, man. Like, I tweeted this the other night. I can't imagine a role fitting you better, an introductory role in WWE fitting you better because of the Rollins connection, because Riddle is who he is, because it's a fight pit match. Because of the interview that they did, that was kind of like the split screen with you and John from years ago. It just feels like it's you are the guy. Like you were like, this is the guy that should be doing that role, the special guest ref. Question for you, special guest referee. Have you been watching any of like the old school special guest referees, like someone like the Shawn Michaels, Mike Tyson, Ken Shamrock with special guest referee, Bret Hart, anything like that?
I haven't really because I want to do it myself. But the reality is this, Mark, I'm smiling right now. But when I get to Philly, like I'm there to do a job. And I'm going to do the job to the best of my ability. I told Jake Casper, Jake Casper is Brutus Creed in the WWE. He wrote, he'll be fair, he'll be impartial, he's going to go right down the line. And many people believe that I'm a cheat for Seth Rollins, but I ain't cheating for nobody. I'm here to do a job. I'm Johnny Law, Raimondi. I'm Johnny Law, and I'm willing to lay it down and rule with an iron fist. So we're going to see what happens.
I feel like you got to throw those guys around a little bit. I feel like I'm not going to be satisfied watching Extreme Rules on Saturday if DC is not hitting the high crotch on somebody.
Hey, dude, high crotch into a high kick. Listen to me, though. The thing is this. I don't even know the story. because they know that I'm a loudmouth and I might tell somebody. So I don't know who's winning. I don't know the story. I have no idea of what's happening in the fight pit match. But what I do know is that it's going to be good because I've watched those guys fight before. I've watched them compete. I've watched their matches, and it's always amazing. So I know that those guys will do great work, and I'm just very honored to be able to be that third person inside the ring, inside the fight pit. Because here's the deal. I say this. It takes a stern guy to referee a match like that. It ain't going to be just any normal referee to referee a match in the fight pit. So it needed someone that could really lay down the law and is comfortable in that environment. And I'm comfortable in that environment. I live in the octagon. I live in the cage. I'm excited about it.
Have you tried on the zebra outfit yet? And is it slimming?
Well, it needs to be slimming. Obviously, you know, I'm the commentator of DC now, so it needs to be slimming. But the reality is this: the biggest question is, do I cut the sleeves or do I leave the sleeves full?
You gotta cut the sleeves, man.
Do I cut the sleeves or do I leave the sleeves full? Do I pull the pants up high? Do I pull them up high, tuck the pants into the socks like the referee and the wrestler? I mean,
we know you're a tuck guy, DC. We know the shirt's going in the pants. Come on, you're Daniel Cormier.
But what about the pants into the socks? That's the question.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's like how much of the Daniel Cormier coach running to the octagon goes into the fight pit on Saturday night?
I think quite a bit of it.
You got to make it your own. Raimondi, I need to be comfortable in front of these people. Look, I have always wanted to do something with the WWE, but it can be intimidating with all the people, the fans.
Sure.
But now my career has now groomed me for this moment. All these people, I'm used to being out there in the spotlight performing. Look, let me just tell you this as I break this fight down. All right. This fight seems to favor Riddle, right? You got to put him as the favorite. He's the favorite. He's the fighter. He's been in the octagon. He's had a successful run in the UFC. Rollins is not a mixed martial artist, but they're fighting in the fight pit. So if you look at the story, if you look at Riddle getting this stipulation to the match, it's Extreme Rules. You know, at Extreme Rules, everything's out the window, so you can expect intensity. But man, I just wonder if Rollins can compete with him inside of the fight pit, because we know Riddle's a master there. This could be a wipeout. This could be a washout. I mean, Matt Riddle has fought in the UFC. This is where he lives, Raimondi. This could be a wipeout, man. I could be there for 2 minutes and he could get rid of Riddle. I mean, but Seth Rollins could be somebody different than who we all expect him to be. I guess we'll find out at Extreme Rules.
I think one of the hardest things about transitioning to doing something in WWE is some people don't have any they weren't fans. They're not fans, and they're just kind of coming in cold. And you're not that. And I think that's one thing you have going for you, especially with pro wrestling fans, because it is a community that they can kind of sniff out who is not the real deal. And I got to tell you, maybe I'm tearing down the fourth wall, but there were days during the pandemic where I would wake up and Daniel Cormier would be texting me about some random pro wrestling. Lex Luger looked really good in 1988. Look at the physique on that guy. The baddest man on the planet was texting me on a random Tuesday morning about pro wrestling during the pandemic. Is that not right? You're very into this stuff.
I'm into it. Let me tell you something. I just watched WWE Evil today on Randy Orton. Like, I love it. I think they do a great job with the films. I think all the television is good. I have been legitimately going through WrestleMania Rewind like you wouldn't believe it. I put a tweet up the other day about Hulk Hogan always kicking out of Macho Man's elbow drop, and it got 800,000 views. So it was like, I really enjoy the product, man. But again, I do enjoy it, but I'm not going there as a fan on Saturday, Raimondi. I'm going there as Johnny Law, and I'm telling you, if I have to lay down the law, I'll lay it down.
I look forward to it very much. Now, the next thing I want to ask you is, you have this on Saturday, Johnny Law, referee DC. Will there be something after? Will we get to see Daniel Cormier doing a little bit more that's maybe not just a referee role in WWE?
As of right now, it's a one-time thing. You know, we'll see how it goes this weekend, and we'll kind of go forward from there. But I don't know, man. Like I want to feel the energy. I want to feel the arena. and see. You know, you never know what the future holds. I'm not a guy that puts limits and that puts I'm not open to things. So maybe it does lead to something bigger. But right now, all eyes are on Extreme Rules and doing the best job I can in order to ensure that this is a fair fight. Because I don't want no cheating. I don't want no backs. I don't want no underhanded actions inside of the fight pit. I want to make sure that we have some clarity at the end of this, Raimondi. We need clarity in this feud. And after Saturday night, Extreme Rules in the fight pit, there will be clarity.
Did you have to get permission to do this from the UFC?
I called Dana right away. And he was like, dude, you in the WWE? How can I say no? He was like, I would never say no to you in the WWE because I know how much you enjoyed it. So yeah, this dude, yeah, they were all for it, man. UFC's all excited. And I mean, honestly, like, and gave me permission to say UFC, you know, so I know they we don't say different organizations. I will say UFC every time I'm out there. So
there were some reports over the weekend after this was announced on Saturday, I believe. There were some reports, I don't know if you've seen this or not, that there might be some talk about Daniel Cormier versus Brock Lesnar, your old friend. Didn't happen in the UFC. Yeah. Didn't happen in the UFC. Almost did. Maybe it might happen in WWE. Is that a real thing?
No, I've not heard anything about that. That's the thing, right? That's the thing, right, Mark? So, like, when something like this happens, and this is honestly very good for me because people start to talk. So people start talking, going, oh, my goodness, I remember when him and Brock were in the octagon supposed to fight. So it seems to make a lot of sense. But as you know, just because something makes sense doesn't mean that it's going to happen. So, no, there is no talks of me fighting Brock Lesnar.
There were. You guys already did a little pro wrestling that year when you beat Stipe, Las Vegas.
I did, yeah.
That was a little bit of pro wrestling in there.
Dude, we laid the foundation, but we did not get the payoff. It was the slow build, but the build was far too slow. It was like a year build with no WrestleMania match to end. So that kind of sucks.
And you got to have your own WrestleMania moment at some point, right? I mean, I don't think we talked about this before. I don't think that Daniel Cormier's athletic career can finish out without taking a bump in a WWE ring and without some kind of a big moment, right? And you've been a fan for a long time. Look, in an alternative lifetime, DC, you might have been doing that, right? Because you were kind of choosing at one point.
I would have been the Junkyard Dog. I watched the Junkyard Dog today on TikTok on the Mid-South Wrestling thing. He sure knew how to like lead the crowd. Listen to the story. Junkyard Dog one time did a signing at Sonic in my hometown. I was the only person showed up. He was old at the time. I lied. I might have been one of 20. But when everybody else got their picture signed and then they left, I sat with the Junkyard Dog for 2 hours because he had nobody else to sign for. As a high school senior, I sat there and me and Junkyard Dog talked for hours. So, yes, I need a moment because, like I said, man, I've always been involved. But a WrestleMania moment could be just Ronda arm throwing Triple H, you know, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a match. Yeah. Just a moment. Maybe I get my moment at Extreme Rules. We don't know.
Well, that's true, but it's not quite a WrestleMania moment.
It's not a WrestleMania moment. No, it's not.
A few more quick things that are not necessarily wrestling related. Mm-hmm. Anderson Silva, your old friend, former opponent, versus Jake Paul. Who wins that fight?
I think Anderson Silva wins the fight. You know, and if Jake Paul wins, you know, honestly, he's a kid that's in his prime. And I say that knowing that now Jake Paul can fight. The guy can fight. Like, I'm done being of the people that say this kid's a joke. Kid is not a joke. The kid can fight, and there are many reasons as to why he can fight. It'll be tough for Anderson. But for all that he's done, Mark, Anderson beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is bigger and better than anything he's ever done. So it does not matter.
Really?
Dude, he beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., even though he's a bit of a mess up, right?
A lot of boxing people have no regard for Chavez Jr.
But here's the deal though. He's a kid that grew up around the sport. Father's one of the greatest boxers of all time. Fought some of the biggest and best names of all time. Was a world champion. There's a lot built into that. Anderson Silva beat that dude. That is much different than beating Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley twice, and whatever the YouTube guy was.
Yeah.
Because those guys were wrestlers that learned to box. Chavez never wrestled. He was a guy that took the boxing gloves as a kid and fought all the way to professional, made a whole bunch of money and everything. That is the biggest moment between the two and the biggest accomplishment between the two. And that went to Anderson Silva at 47 years old.
So Anderson wins? Is that what you're saying?
Anderson wins the fight. Yep, Anderson wins the fight.
Well, you and Nate Diaz, a little bit of a beef, but I don't want to ask you about the beef. What should Nate Diaz do next? If you were guiding Nate Diaz's career, he's a free agent. What does he do?
I think he goes to fight Jake Paul. I think that's probably what makes the most sense. Go fight Jake Paul. Go make your money. And then Nate Diaz is bulletproof. It doesn't matter if he wins or loses. He's bulletproof, man. People love him, and they're gonna love him regardless of outcome. So if I was Nate Diaz, I'd go cash the biggest check that I can. And if that's Jake Paul, I'd go fight Jake Paul. I really don't know why Nate's mad. I don't even know why Nate was mad though. Like, I don't even get why he was mad. It's like the craziest thing is like he wakes up in the morning and chooses, I'm gonna attack DC. Like, Nate,
was it something that you said on DC and RC, which by the way, Tuesday is ESPN MMA YouTube.
Yeah, don't forget about that. Come on, dog. Give me that. Let me get a moment. That. Can I get a moment? Every Tuesday, DC and RC on ESPN YouTube and now on ESPN 2, 12 a.m. Eastern time. So don't miss it. It probably was that. I said he was going to lose to Khamzat Chimaev, but do you think he was going to beat Khamzat Chimaev? Like, I'm just the guy that says it. So, and because I say it, I got the biggest voice, so people come at me.
Very last thing, Bo Nickel. I know that you're on board with Bo Nickel as a top prospect, but the UFC has to be careful, right? I mean, they can't push him too much. Only 3-0, right? I mean, or do they? Or does you think he's fighting a contender? Like as soon as you know his next fight after this? I know he has one booked December, but the one after that, is he fighting a contender?
Yeah, you know he's not fighting a contender yet. But here's the deal: Bo Nickel is a high-level wrestler, but what many people don't understand is Nickel's mom. He grew up boxing. This guy's not just some random wrestler that's learning. So when they see Bo Nickel hurting people, Bo Nickel has a background in striking first, which ultimately gives him confidence. And you know what else gives him confidence is knowing that he has the ability to outwork and outtrain just about anyone, and then being able to win at the level that he's won. Bo Nickel is a real problem. And I love that he talks his talk. He be out there just saying all kind of crazy stuff. He said something today that if he got to fight on the prelims, he's retiring. He's on a pay-per-view. He's on a pay-per-view. He can't possibly think he's going to be on a pay-per-view card in December, but I guess we'll see.
I don't think I've seen a better prospect at 3-0 in MMA, right?
I think he's probably one of the most legit prospects we've ever seen in the sport. In the sport. He's one of the most legit guys we've ever seen come into the sport at that age. Because generally wrestlers come in a little later, right? We chase the Olympic dream. He comes right now out of college, young, hungry, in shape. It's going to be a problem for these dudes.
For sure. DC, thank you so much. Don't forget, of course, Tuesdays, DC and RC, ESPN MMA, ESPN 2. You're doing everything. You're on WWE, Saturday, Extreme Rules, Fight Pit match, special guest referee, no sleeves, DC, and you got to tuck it. You got to tuck the shirt.
We got to tuck the shirt. Money. Thank you, my friend. Nice to see you.
Thanks, Daniel.
Hey, you look good, man. I'm glad you put a jacket on for me. I love it.
I got a fresh cut, a jacket, just for you. Just for you.
My boy. I'll see you later.
Thanks, Daniel.
All right, Mark.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.